Hello everyone, Blue Star Saber here once again to give you another Star Wars The Bad Batch review and all that stuff. Episode 12, or the 28th episode overall, but the 12th of the second season, The Outpost, in which, as you can probably tell from my avatar, instead of following and continuing the story of what happened with the Zilla Beast from last week, this week we are now following once again the adventures of Crosshair, or at least see what Crosshair's up to. This is the first time that we've had a Crosshair episode since the third episode of the season and all that stuff, which is still arguably the best one and had Commander Cody. But now that Commander Cody has defected from the Empire, who will Crosshair be partnered up with this time? And will his loyalty to the Empire still be remain, or will it be shaken? Well, we find out in this episode. But yeah. But pretty much the episode begins with I believe Coruscant, where you get the new stormtroopers, let's see, coming in and all that stuff, and new officers. You see Crosshair seeing about a bunch of clone officers with Commander Bragg being told they're forced to retire, that their service to be done, but they have no idea what is going to happen to them now that, let's see, since all they've known is being what life as a soldier. While Crosshair is introduced to, I believe his name is, nope, not that one. Let's see, Nolan. Let's see, an Imperial who I will admit, the voice of the kind of reminds me of the guy who plays Roy Harper in Young Justice, who's Red Arrow, Arsenal, Guardian, blah blah blah. But yeah. But yeah, I could be wrong. But yeah. But Nolan is a stuck-up Imperial lieutenant who is in charge of this operation of delivering cargo, which Crosshair is to be a part of. And from the get-go, you learn that he hates clones. He doesn't like the fact his entire squad is clones. And he's pretty smug about thing and all that stuff. So, yeah. So, yeah, it is interesting the fact that we get Crosshair. It's about the time that we got an episode with Crosshair again, and this time it's about the aftermath of the two-part in which dealt with the clone bill that deals with the fact that the clones are being replaced by stormtroopers and all that stuff. As we can see, at the very least, at the moment, the clone officers, the ones that board the stations, are being pretty much replaced. And I do like how you got Imperial Bragg and all that stuff, the female Imperial that was on Raxus Prime, I believe, who took let's see, so yeah, well, let's see. But granted, Filoni does always like to bring recurring characters, but it's nice that we're getting more dealt with this one and all that stuff. So yeah, who knows? Will we see more of her? We'll have to wait and see. But for the moment, we are seeing the effects of the clones being forced to do into early retirement and all that stuff, and they have no idea what they're going to do and all that stuff. It's just like something she warned quite a few of them. Unfortunately, it was too late, and Palpatine has already started to replace them. But yeah, this new Imperial Nolan, who I quite like the sort of ice design theme. Let's see, winter themed Imperial suit he's got. You can clearly, which tells you that we're pretty much going to an ice planet. It's clear that he has no. It's clear that he is no respect for clones, and arguably probably the biggest clone bigot we've seen since Jedi General Krell, or at least one that's openly hostile. Granted, let's see, you could argue the same with Vice Admiral Rampart, but at least Rampart seemed to at least favor certain clones. But still, but yeah. I am curious to see if Crosshair has any opinion on the fact that the Vice Admiral has been discharged, but that's not the case. But yeah. But he pretty much hates clones. He pretty much dislikes Crosshair, and and if you're a fan of the clones, you're more than going to dislike this guy in the first 5 seconds that you know him and all that stuff. So yeah. Anyway, they arrive on the planet. I believe it's called. Let's see. The planet is called. Let's see. Let's see, a Baton 4, I believe. I believe, Barton 4. Let's see, as far as I can tell, this planet is relatively it's a new one introduced for the Bad Batch. No surprise there. Let's see. I do like how you got new planets for the Empire and all that stuff. So like Star Wars Lore, not going back to all the same ones that we go. I mean, it's always a treat too, but sometimes I do like a new planet, even if they just introduced us to tell one specific story. But yeah. Anyway, it's pretty much an icy world planet. At first, I thought we might have been going to the Pantoran moon and all that stuff where the Thralls were, but that is not the case here. But yeah. And we end up introduced to the clone partner Crosshair has for this episode. Commander Mayday, who I will admit is a clone commander wearing regular sort of clone troop armor, but all these sort of like bandages wrapped around and all that stuff. After I'm surprised that let's see, you not got the ice armor that you can't. Let's see, snow trooper type armor that you got in the first season of the Clone Wars in the Moon of Pantora and all that stuff, but. I do like the sort of design. I do like the sort of design that it has wrapped around. It kind of reminds me of Dengar a little bit, but yeah. But you pretty much got them pretty much wrapped around to trying to deal with this heat and all that stuff. I mean, well, to deal with the freezing cold, to try and keep warm. Let's see. Anyway, but Mayday is the last survivor besides his two squad mates, Hex and Vet and all that stuff, and they have been requesting backup for ages now and all that stuff, but they've just been told to guard the post, and they're down to those two men and all that stuff with Nolan showing no sympathy and just demanding they do their job and all that stuff, and clearly shows lack of respect despite Mayday saying that respect comes a long way, sir, and all that stuff. And I do like Mayday's personality about how he's not taking any of this crap from like the Imperial commander. Was like trash and all that stuff, saying like, do as I say and all that stuff, is saying like, you need to show some respect and all that stuff, sir. Even though he's disgruntled and all that stuff, argues about how, okay, I have been let's see, requesting backup for ages. I'm down to like a few men, and then I'm not here for your nonsense and all that stuff. And even I do like a little snide about how he goes like, I am commander, while let's see, the Imperial's like a lieutenant, which. Clearly, technically, the clone commander should be outranking him, even though the Imperial lieutenant and all that stuff, due to the fact being a non-clone, is in charge of the operation and all that stuff. But he's clearly shown to be incompetent. But yeah. But during this outpost thing, as Crosshair is scouting about and then joined by Mayday. He ends up learning quite a bit of what they've been dealing with here. Let's see, raiders, let's see, pirates, all that stuff. Let's see, maybe some creatures, well, some ice vultures. Well, the ice vultures come and pick up and eat the dead at the very least. Let's see, Mayday explains about how all the equipment they've been having is barely holding up, particularly sensors and all that stuff. And it takes quite a long time and all that stuff. And we also learn that let's see, Mayday has no idea what cargo they're actually protecting and all that stuff, and Crosshair is just like, let's see, just like a bit curious and all that stuff. When Crosshair is just probably a bit bewildered by it, or at least doesn't seem to care at first. It's like a mission's a mission, but you can clearly tell that Mayday's words are starting to have effect about how the Empire is treating them and all that stuff. But yeah. But I do like this sort of conversation about how you got these, let's see, the clones being sort of like soldiers who don't know what they're protecting, all that stuff, but they're fighting for their lives and they're trying their very best at the very least, and using the equipment they got, despite orders from the Empire never coming through, using what they can, even though they've lose quite a lot of casualties here, but it's clear that Mayday is just being like just wants it done with, and you can clearly tell that he has a very cynical nature from after those months of guarding and all that stuff. But yeah, I do like also I like the beard he has and all that stuff. Like, shows you just how long he's been here. He's grown a beard that he cannot really shave. He hasn't had time to shave it off. Anyway, the outpost gets attacked by a bunch of raiders and all that stuff. And you have Crosshair doing a few of his sniper skills, wounding one of them. But during the whole fight, the two clone troopers, Hex and Vetch, died as a result, while that one person Crosshair sniped got injured and ran off. But we managed to find like a cave of where they were going and all that stuff, and this explained to Mayday what happened to how they'd be able to avoid his sensors. Anyway, as they head back to like like inside the outpost, where I forgot to mention before, but you see a bunch of clone helmets being laid on the cargo and all that stuff, and now Mayday has added his two remaining squad mates and all that stuff as a way of memorial, but let's see, Lieutenant Nolan has none of it and is complaining about the lack of the clone's efficiency and all that stuff, and their supposed competence for getting some of the cargo stolen. But Mayday tries to insist that there's no point in going after, and after he orders them to go retrieve it. As he says, there's no point in doing so, as he doesn't have the men unless he's willing to do it, volunteer his own. But Nolan's having none of it, keeping his men remaining in the clones here to guard the outpost. I shouldn't mention he was a bit of a jerk earlier when he ended up going off the bridge, and when he tripped, he blamed the clone that kind of laughed and all that stuff, forcing him to guard the outpost. But here, it's like only you and Crosshair, Mayday, can not name the clone specifically, but says that only like Crosshair and Mayday can go and retrieve the crates by themselves, and he expects them back and all that stuff. So yeah. I do like this sort of clone, as you will, memorial and memory kind of thing, where you're having like what is left, like at least the helmets of the fallen clones being left there to be secured by let's see, to be remembered by the ones that remain and all that stuff, and as a way of like burying the dead as best they can, if you will. Well, they can't really bury them here, but at least leave the helmets there as memorials of like who has come before and who has laid down their lives and all that stuff. But you can tell that the admiral here, the lieutenant, doesn't give a toss about the clones that have died, doesn't care about the moment of grieving that Mayday is having, and just saying, get the cargo, I don't care how. Pretty much sending Crosshair and Mayday on a suicide mission, and the fact that it's only going to be those two together, no backup. So, yeah. They're on their own and all that stuff, and you can clearly tell just that Mayday thinks that it's not worth trying to retrieve the cargo, but he's not in charge, so he has to do the best he can. Anyway, Crosshair and Mayday end up going for the ice cave, where they end up seeing the dead body of the guy that Crosshair sniped a bit, and Mayday's disturbed to find that let's see, the enemy has been stealing the uniforms of his men and all that stuff, raiding, if you will. But Crosshair says that just leave the body here and all that stuff, and let's see, no point having dead weight, which kind of disturbs Mayday a bit. Like, okay, I have to make sure I don't die then and all that stuff. Otherwise, you'll leave me with fine and all that stuff. But yeah, but as a result, during the walk-in and all that stuff, Crosshair ends up stepping on a land sensor mine and all that stuff, and if he moves his foot, it explodes, which does lead a little jokes about Mayday saying, I better try and help you, otherwise I don't want to carry a bit of dead body back and all that stuff. From what Crosshair was like, oh, the dead weight. No, he has not seen this type of mine before, but he thinks he can disarm it, and he tries to do some sort of like hammer like metal bits on the mine to place to make it look like it's still censored and that stuff. And while he's doing this, he ends up talking to like Crosshair, asking him about his squad and all that stuff, and then what happened to them, with Crosshair saying that they're gone, making it vague that okay, well, in some things that is true they have gone, but he's not implying that they were alive or dead, just gone. But Mayday just assumes that, of course, they're dead, and thinks like, I guess we're the last survivors of our squads, the veterans of the war and all that stuff. And here you see a bit more of Mayday questioning like every sort of order thing, while Crosshair's still trying to say like orders. We have to mission's a mission, but Mayday's like let's see, let's see. Another thing I do kind of feel like whenever I hear say the word Mayday, it makes me think of Mayday Parker from Spider Girl. But anyway, but clearly that this sort of starts to get into like Crosshair a bit as Mayday is able to disarm the mine, and of course get to a safe distance before letting Crosshair step off and all that stuff, and they continue and all that stuff. So yeah. I will admit, I do like the banter between these two, particularly like that, and as we've seen from the episode of Her Talk. But yeah, before that, I will admit, I do find it interesting how you got these raiders who, let's see, don't seem to be speaking English, and they're clearly not human, and let's see, some sort of furry kind of humanoid creatures, I'm guessing, but I can't necessarily tell. But from what I can tell, they don't really speak basic, or like, or whatever language you're listening to the Bad Batch in and all that stuff. So yeah, but it is interesting how, let's see, the enemy has been stealing the uniforms and clothing of like the clones and all that stuff. So I think it probably it kind of disturbs May, the fact that his, let's see, friends have been stripped for pieces of arm and all that stuff. But I think this sort of makes sense in a sort of like guerrilla war kind of fair thing where you try and take whatever you get out of the enemies, even if they're uniforms and clothing, weapons, whatever. So yeah, I thought that was pretty good and all that stuff. So makes, let's see, sense despite how dark it is. And but yeah, but I do like the sort of banter about how Cross has like dead weight and all that stuff, and not caring too much about seemingly not caring who's left dead behind. But Mayday, well, also a bit disturbed, also making a bit of jokes about it and all that stuff, saying, okay, I'll make sure I won't have you carrying me die, so you won't leave me behind and all that stuff. So yeah, but I do like he has a bit of a word back at Crosshair a bit with the whole when he gets stuck in the mine and all that stuff, landmine and all that, sensor mine, if you will. But I do like the conversation that Crosshair mainly has with Mayday, particularly like the fact that it's like the fact that, let's see, despite Crosshair being like the mission's a mission, he's meeting a clone that has just been wearing all that stuff, what he's fought for, what he's lost. Starts to question like all kinds of missions that the Empire just gives and all that stuff without any like respect back. And he was wonders if it even worth it. But yeah, I do like how it starts to lead seed into Crosshair's doubts. But yeah, I do like how they also talk about but their own respective squads. And I do like how Crosshair keeps it vague about why he has lost his squad. They're still alive and out, not dead. But for Mayday, they're dead and all that stuff. I do like how he tries to keep it a secret at first, which one he belongs to. But yeah, but either way, Mayday doesn't care. He's not like one of those regs that like, the Bad Batch kind of thing. But yeah, yeah. So, but yeah, they move on. Eventually, they find the outpost of the raiders. They take some of them out stealthily by from the back, grabbing them, and then have a bit of a gun fight with like the raiders. Shoot quite a few of them and all that stuff. Quite down, but let's see more as more reinforcements come in. Crosshair just shoots the manlar. Let's see some of the mines that they've been using, causing an explosion, causing a sort of avalanche and break-in. Rock falls down on the base where the cargo's being pushed out and all that stuff. Let's see. After the whole let's see gunfight and all that stuff, Mayday and Crosshair try to retrieve the equipment, only to find that it's the new TK Stormtrooper armor that is currently being used in the Bad Batch, the original prototype before like the regular Stormtrooper. And you can just see just the despair and anger that Mayday has and all that stuff, realizing that all this time I've been guarding armor that not only could have worn, but only to learn that it's actually armor to for their replacements and all that stuff. And I'll admit, let's see, the gunfight was pretty good. I liked how they tried to stealthily take out first before shooting a few more enemies, but they greatly underestimated how many there were. And they were nearly gunned and pinned down until Crosshair shot that mine and all that stuff. So I do like that, but it did have the unintended consequences of causing like an avalanche, if you will, and all that stuff. But the main bit is the fact that the revelation that all this time Mayday has been losing his clone brothers' lives because they've been protecting armor that let's see for their replacements. That has got to sting no matter how who you see. It's like I throw down my brothers throw down my life all for a bunch of armor just for like our replacements. So yeah. It's like it just goes to show just how little the Empire seems to care for their well-being if it's just to guard, let's see, armor like that and all that stuff. So yeah. But eventually, like an avalanche comes and comes the storm thing. Crosshair loses his helmet and all that stuff. Well, his Empire helmet, not his classic one. I think the classic armor is still with the Bad Batch, from what I can tell. But I could be wrong. Let's see. Mayday is trapped in the snow and all that stuff, and Crosshair tries to dig him out and all that stuff. He tells him to leave him, but he's not going to leave him behind. Puts his helmet on, and helps him, drags him throughout the snow and all that stuff. Even Wetsy being wary of like the ice vultures. Eventually, we're back to the base where you see the new stormtroopers with their armor and all that stuff, taking the cargo and all that stuff, with the lieutenant watching on. Until he notices like the stormtroopers looking on at the looking around and then wondering what it is, and realizes that it's his two clones that he sent back and all that stuff. Telling the stormtroopers to get back to work as he deals with this. And Mayday not in the best condition as Crosshair's carrying him, and he was even using his sniper rifle as a how you say walking stick or crane stick, if you will. And they collapse with like let's see, Crosshair begging Nolan to get some medical attention to Mayday and all that stuff. But Nolan says that no point in wasting resources on a clone and all that stuff. And just as this happens, Mayday finally dies as a result of his injuries. Crosshair, in despair and anger, tells him like, let's see, you could have saved him and all that stuff. But Nolan says that he served his purpose, he's dispendable, and says the same with Crosshair. And Crosshair, in despair and anger, just looking at Mayday and all that stuff, looking back at the clone, finally has his breaking point, finally crosses the line, or like feels like the Empire has finally crossed the line with him, where he then shoots it before drawing his lieutenant back to his attention to him. Well, he does look at the vultures first, and then shoots him with a pistol in his pocket and all that stuff as the lieutenant dies and he collapses, no longer having the strength to stand up, while stormtroopers surrounding him and all that stuff, arresting him for the death of the lieutenant, if you will. They're telling him to put his gun away, and they surround him as Crosshair collapses back to, like, you know, Mayday. Oh boy, what? Let's see. Oh boy, this is. To be honest, I was spoiled by this due to the fact that a YouTube video showed that Crosshair kills Lieutenant, and since, like, so I knew that this guy was going to die, but I didn't know why. But clearly, we see here why. But yeah, I do like how Crosshair is, well, despite being like the Bad Batch superior clones, if he does have a comrade he likes, he will try and save them and all that stuff. That's what he tries to do with Mayday, despite his pleas to just leave him and all that stuff. But yeah, and even though it probably hurts him and all that stuff because he's lost his helmet and he's now dealing with a freezing cold on his face, but let's see, he's not going to let this clone die. And even drags him back and all that stuff, even if it means not retrieving the cargo. And let's see, and I do like how it shows just how much and it's just tragic about how all his methods are in vain and all that stuff, because, well, we just learn just how much of a scumbag this Imperial Lieutenant Nolan is, when he refuses to help Mayday and his death, which I think was a bit tragic. Let's see. No surprise. It's not a surprise that this guy wasn't going to make it out alive. I think the death flags were going quite early on the episode with like all of which the men he sacrificed to do and his beliefs in the Empire going down. Clearly, it's supposed to build into doubts into Crosshair to lead him to this moment and all that stuff. But yeah, but even though he's a one shot art, one note cat, one episode guest character, if you will, his death is all the more tragic because, well, you know, he could have been saved, but the Imperial just finds him dispendable, and so does Crosshair. And I do like how Crosshair tries desperately to get him to fix him and all that stuff, and gets so angry when Nolan refuses that he just breaks and just snaps and just shoots him, and doesn't care about the consequences for killing a commanding officer, if you will. As like the stormtroopers surround them. But I do like how the stormtroopers were like curious. Hey, look, they made it back and all that stuff. But let's see, showing that not all of them, or at least some of them, are at least impressed. Well, I probably think the clones are inferior. At least seem to be at least impressed when they do impressive feats of surviving at the very least. Or at least these original ones. But yeah, but of course they're not taking the whole kill lieutenant thing. They're going to let that slide. Though granted, I do wonder perhaps if they were in Crosshair's shoes, they were like, you know what, I would have probably done the same thing. But yeah. But anyway, let's see. Crosshair is then wakes up in a sort of like a medical thing where it's clearly Mount Tantarus as the Imperial Doctor Emerald Carr, who was introduced last episode and all that stuff, who was like with Royce Hemlock, is examining Crosshair, giving him medical things, telling him that they still not try to be too reckless. Otherwise, you might die if you try to move thing. And it's clear that from the way she's talking, she's trying to examine him to try and see what made him snap, possibly, or maybe experiment. But yeah, but either way, Crosshair's life is on the line right now, and he's clearly now a prisoner within Mount Mormont, leading up to probably the final of the Bad Batch two-parter. Let's see in the next few episodes and all that stuff. So yeah. Wow, what can I say? The Crosshair episodes so far in the season has been amazing, but sadly the only downside is there's only 2 of them. Man, in many ways, I do wish we got like 1 or 2 more at the very least before this episode, just to see more of what he does and all that stuff, and how he deals with like some of the changing focus, such as let's see the clones being replaced by the stormtroopers and Vice Admiral Rampart being disposed of. But regardless, despite the fact there's not enough quantity, the quality in the cross episodes have so far been good, and in fact, they've probably remained the best the best episodes so far of the season. With the thing where you have a clone just working for the Empire, but it's just cool to see this episode is pretty much last episode was Crosshair, of course, working with Cody, a clone, more like what the public days are, but becoming more and more deluded with the Empire's efforts of taking over like separatist worlds. And then finally, he just defects. But here, Crosshair, as a clone, just follows orders. But it's here that we finally learn where Crosshair has a line to snap and all that stuff against the Empire. And that's, let's see, corrupt Imperial lieutenants just not giving a dang about the lives of clones and their men, if you will. But yeah. Let's see, Nolan is probably the example of the Imperial arrogance and lack of regard for others. So yeah, that was pretty good. Let's see, they did a great job of making us hate this guy and all that stuff, especially a fan of clones. Let's see, we got a new cool character of Mayday, whose main purpose is to seed doubt into Crosshair about the missions and all that stuff. And he's a very tragic figure who's like been out in this outpost defending it, using all his brothers, only to learn that he's been doing cargo for like the replacement stormtroopers. And I do like, and it's all led up to like the big moment of like Crosshair shooting and all that stuff. So yeah, pretty great episode overall. And arguably, this is leading to the seeds of like Crosshair becoming a prisoner of the Empire, where they're going to the planet Let's see Mount Mordor, where they're doing clone experimentations, which will probably lead them eventually to cross paths with his old squad and all that stuff. Where no doubt he'll probably be declared a traitor for keeping them on the for not revealing that they're actually still alive and all that stuff. So you lied and all that stuff. But yeah. But no doubt I wouldn't be surprised that next time when the Bad Batch and Crosshair meet, instead of Crosshair being their enemy, he'll even a bit reluctantly, or at least maybe willingly, he will no doubt probably defect back to his old squad and probably realize that the Empire no longer gives a damn about him or other clones, and he's better off with his squad than this new Empire, despite the differences in the actions he's done. Whether or not you think Crosshair deserves redemption, at the very least, you can try and reach for atonement with his squad, and maybe for other clones who have been discarded by the Empire and all that stuff. So yeah. Overall, I'd probably give this episode a 10 out of 10. Great episode. Let's see, I enjoyed it ever so more. I'm hoping that the Bad Batch isn't losing too much track because the Mandalorian is showing on, but I hope that, let's see, for the Star Wars fans today, you got a treat. You got 2 great episodes of 2 different Star Wars shows, one in live action, one in animation, and looking forward to the next episode, which from my understanding will be titled Pabu. So yeah, I have to keep feeling that that one might be just the last sort of filler episode of the season. Might be dealing with a pirate lady and or maybe Sid, the Bad Batch part Wedge before Tipping Point. Let's see, will be the episode after, which will probably lead into like the finale and all that stuff, which is like let's see, the episodes of the Summit and Plan 99, the 2-parter, in which clearly will be the concentration in the lab. But overall, the Bad Batch, let's see, for the most part, since the second half has been phenomenal with the episodes. The only one I'd say was weak was the retrieval episode, but yeah, overall pretty good stuff. And yeah, let's see, I look forward to next week's for the Bad Batch. But yeah, I am Blue Star Saber, signing off. May the Force be with you, and goodbye.